Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Ingmar Medical's webinar on running a mechanical ventilation scenario with the RespiSim system. My name is Brian Lin, and I am the product manager at Ingmar Medical. Joining us today is Kimber Catullo, our clinical educator.
Hello.
Kimber developed the scenario we'll be demonstrating for you, and she'll be assisting with the Q&A at the end. While there are multiple ways of running educational scenarios with our ASL 5000 breathing simulator, we have used our RespiSim software to control the simulation today. In a moment, we will view a pre-recorded simulation featuring a patient who has been intubated due to a severe asthma exacerbation. The ventilator screens you will see were captured from a real ventilator, and additional patient information such as vital signs, was provided by the instructor using our software program. Before we dive into the scenario, I'd like to give you some context on the ASL 5000 breathing simulator and how it works. So I know we have quite a few users of the ASL 5000 in the audience today, so bear with me for a moment here if a little bit of this information is redundant for you, but we'll move into the live scenario here momentarily. You see a picture right now of the ASL 5000 breathing simulator. Within this box, there is a piston inside of a cylinder. With our software program, we control the movement of the piston to create breathing patterns based on the equation of motion. For today's scenario, we have connected a real ventilator to the 22mm port on the front of the ASL 5000. Technically speaking, this is all you need to show the interaction between the breaths and the ventilator. But we do have options available for integrating a mannequin with the ASL 5000 to create a more realistic learning environment. Here you see an image of our most comprehensive solution, the RespiSim Pro package. Still driven by the breaths created from the ASL 5000, this system includes several items to enhance the experience for the learner, such as our RespiPatient mannequin, a separate monitor for viewing patient information such as x-rays and vital signs, and a simulated stethoscope for auscultation. The power and versatility of the ASL 5000 comes from its sophisticated control over three main types of parameters, and those would be resistance, compliance, and spontaneous effort. With the ASL 5000, you can select any resistance value from 3 to 500 centimeters of water per liter per second. This range of resistance values represents essentially any condition from a fully healthy airway to one that is severely obstructed. The ASL 5000 also allows you to select compliance values from 0.5 to 250 milliliters per centimeter of water. A low compliance value would represent a stiff lung, and this is indicative of disease states such as fibrosis or ARDS. A high compliance value represents a lung that is too elastic, and we would use these values to represent disease states such as emphysema or COPD. We do have some advanced features related to resistance and compliance as well. First, our customers have the ability to create two-compartment lung models in order to simulate conditions such as a pneumothorax. And you can also set inspiratory resistance and expiratory resistance independently, which is critical for simulating conditions such as the severe asthma patient we will be using today. So these combinations of resistance and compliance allow us to carefully construct disease state models such as ARDS, COPD, asthma, and many more. But in my opinion, the biggest advantage of adopting the ASL 5000 is the ability to simulate a patient who is breathing spontaneously while being ventilated. Using the movement of the piston inside of the ASL 5000, you can produce real negative pressures sensed by the ventilator as a patient effort. This means you can provide training on any mode of ventilation, and you can craft real-life scenarios on advanced ventilator management topics, such as patient ventilator synchrony, weaning trials, and waveform analysis. The ASL 5000 has a total volume capacity of approximately 2.7 liters. This means any clinically relevant PEEP value can be applied from the ventilator, even values greater than 20 centimeters of water. The ranges of parameters available also allow users to simulate any patient type from neonatal to adult. In fact, the ASL 5000 can produce a spontaneous tidal volume as small as 2 milliliters. So I wanted to give you all a sense of how we're able to create realistic patient models with our system. But today's scenario will be controlled from our quick choice menu, which is the simplest way for educators to run a simulation. All of our users have access to the parameters we just discussed, and they can always use these parameters to build their own models or adjust the ones that we've created. But the quick choice menu allows you to simply select models that we've built based on patient type, such as adult, pediatric, and neonatal, diagnosis, such as the ones you see here, and severity. So now that we've talked a little bit about how the ASL 5000 works and the way that we're able to create our respiratory conditions, I'd like to move into today's scenario. Before we begin, I'd like to give you some background information on our patient. Our patient is an 18-year-old male who is 6 foot 5 inches tall. He arrived in the emergency room with shortness of breath, use of accessory muscles, and bilateral wheezing. The patient was placed on a continuous nebulizer and BiPAP for 2 hours with no improvement. Next, he was intubated and placed on the ventilator for an asthma exacerbation. To set the initial conditions for our trainee, we will first need to activate our asthmatic patient. Now that we have activated our severe asthmatic patient model, it is time to connect the simulator to the ventilator. Today, we will be connecting the ventilator directly to the 22 millimeter port on the front of the ASL 5000. But if you own a RespiPatient mannequin, you will intubate the mannequin and connect to the ET tube. The instructor is responsible for selecting initial ventilator settings to create a problem for the trainee to solve. We will set the ventilator to the volume control mode with an inspiratory time of 1.2, a rate of 30, tidal volume of 350 milliliters, and a PEEP of 10. Now that the initial conditions have been set, it's time to bring the trainee into the room. First, the trainee should make some initial observations on the ventilator. The patient is clearly desynchronous with the ventilator. We can observe high peak pressures and an I/E ratio of about 1:1, which is indicative of an asthma exacerbation. The total rate is above the set rate, which shows the patient is breathing spontaneously, and we see evidence of air trapping as well. The trainee should also assess the patient's vital signs. We can see that this patient is tachycardic, hypertensive, and hypoxemic. The patient's end-tidal CO2 should provide further evidence of air trapping. After assessing the patient, the trainee decides to switch the mode to pressure control and administer continuous albuterol. You can see on the ventilator that the switch to pressure control has led to immediate improvements. The patient is more synchronous with the ventilator, and the peak pressures are no longer exceeding the alarm limit. The I/E ratio has improved to almost 1:2 as well. Now let's fast forward to 6 hours later. The continuous nebulizer has led to an improvement in the patient's condition, so we can simulate this by activating the mild asthma model. Now, if we look at the ventilator, we see alarms for high tidal volume and minute ventilation due to the improved lung mechanics. The trainee should now make additional adjustments to adapt to the change in patient condition. The peak pressures have dropped further to a safe level. The tidal volume and minute ventilation are now in an acceptable range as well. Heart rate and blood pressure have dropped to safer levels, and the end-tidal CO2 shows less evidence of air trapping. This concludes our scenario today. Okay, so thanks everyone for taking a look at our scenario that we created today. And now we'd like to open up the rest of the webinar for questions and answers. So please go ahead and type those into the questions and answers box. Okay, so Cheryl has a question here. Can you review screen changes? Cheryl, could you elaborate just a little bit more on that? Do you mean screen changes that on the vent or our software program? Okay, so Cheryl is referring to the software program. So let me go ahead and close this slide here, and then I can show you the software platform here. So again, this is the RespiSim software that we use to control the simulation, and this first window here is called the quick choice menu. So that is the environment that we focused on for today's scenario. And basically what we had done here is control the patient condition based on the settings that you see here. So we selected adult from the patient type, asthma, and severe. Later in the simulation, when the albuterol had taken effect, we had simulated the impact of the albuterol by changing the patient model from severe to mild. So that customization of the patient model was really as simple as changing from the mild, or I'm sorry, the severe to mild in the disease severity. And then we would just simply need to click activate current selection. To show the vital signs monitor, and that may be, Cheryl, what you're referring to, we were typing values in here to this vital signs values area. And then once those values were entered, we would just simply click vital signs monitor here. And that would have the vital signs monitor from our software pop up for the student. Now, ultimately, this would be set to pop up on a separate screen that would be used for only the student to view that information. Does that answer your question, Cheryl? Okay, so then Bill has another question related to the quick choice menu here and our software program. So Bill asks, is the quick choice menu a new software option? Yes, relatively new. So the quick choice menu was introduced in our latest software version, version 3.6. So it's been out now for, I guess, close to a year, but we did introduce that software version in 2017. So if you are a current user and you have an older version of our software program, we would be very happy to talk to you about what you can do to get upgraded to the latest and greatest. And I guess I should mention, any of these discussions that you want to have take place, you can email sales@ingmarmed.com to have these discussions. So that's just sales@ingmarmed.com. Do you want to go with that one or no? Okay, so Linda asks, do you have a scenario that includes heliox delivery through the vent?
Hi, Linda, this is Kimber. We don't have one at this time, but if you already have the software, you're more than able to build that on your own in RespiSim, or you could use the quick choice depending on what you want to do with the heliox scenario. I guess I don't know what your interest in heliox is, but you could have the patient definitely improve if you place them on heliox. With the quick choice, you could go from severe asthma obstruction and have the students place them on heliox and then just improve their severity to perhaps moderate. There wouldn't be a ton on the software side that you would really have to do. I think it would be more the physical pieces of the student setting that up for like a competency or something like that. But you could definitely show improvement when they're placed on it.
Yeah, so that I think that ties in nicely to another question we have here as well. This other question is, I see. So one of the participants says, I see that you can provide vital signs, but what about X-rays, sounds, etc.? So Today, like I said, we focused on using the quick choice menu, which is an interactive way of running simulations with our software program. But we do have a different environment that we call the instructor dashboard. And within the instructor dashboard environment, you also have the ability to provide additional information to the learner, such as x-rays, sounds, blood gases, and lab results, as well as an initial assessment for the student to view the background information on the patient. So in this environment, you have a fairly more substantial way of structuring your scenarios rather than only running them on the fly. Okay, so now we have another question based on how we can adjust parameters during the simulation. So what you viewed today was a very simple scenario where we only really adjusted the patient's condition once, and that was an adjustment from the severe asthma model to the mild asthma model. But we have a question here asking essentially, if you'd like to make more specific adjustments to the models, how would you go about that? And we can do that fairly easily here. From the quick choice menu, you have another button called Advanced Interactive. So if you click Advanced Interactive, you will open up a new window where you have the ability to set very specific values for resistance and compliance. So for instance, when I open this up, you see by default, you would be viewing the parameters that were used to create the model that's currently running. But then you can enter any value. And again, this comes back to those ranges that we discussed initially in the presentation. So if you make an adjustment here, you can just simply type in a new value, or you can go ahead and turn the knob to the value that you want. And these changes would then be applied on the fly. Now, you can also take any of these adjustments that you make and save those, the new combination of parameters as a model in our patient library, simply by clicking this Save Current Model Settings. So then that's a very nice way of building your own models and adding those to the library to be used again and again.
We have a question from Bill. It says, does the instructor dashboard allow you to fine-tune the resistance and compliance? So let me show the instructor dashboard here. The instructor dashboard is really where you put in the scenarios that are going to be more immersive and high fidelity. So you really want to put it in those labs, x-rays, lung sounds, things like that. You build the files here. You can build them or drop in from our library of pre-made files, and you do that by clicking this little folder. So yes, you can pre-program your specific resistance and compliance and drop it in here. If you're running a scenario and a student makes a change you weren't really expecting, you have the ability to go right to the Advanced Interactive Control Panel, which Brian just explained is the first purple button on the top left. And you can open that up, start it, and you can make changes on the fly. It takes you right to our library of pre-made scenarios, and you have these two tabs that can control the breath on the fly. And once the student has corrected the change, you can end interactive, and it will drop you right back into the scenario where you left off.
Okay, so we have another question here from Rob, and Rob asks, how did you change the vital signs displays as the patient condition changed? So in the approach that we took today, we were in this quick choice menu environment, and that means that we were entering those values and changing them on the fly. So basically, anything you have entered here will be displayed on the vital signs monitor. So when you want to make a change as the instructor, you would need to enter those new values. Now, that's using the approach that we took today, again, with this quick choice menu. But as Kimber was just explaining, with our instructor dashboard, you can really, this gives you the opportunity to be prepared for the direction that the simulation should go. And that means that you can actually preset these combinations of vital signs and then simply click the new patient state to have them apply all at once. So that alleviates you from having to adjust things on the fly so much.
Just a little extra for you, Rob. If when you type these in, you just tab through, and the system will pick it up once you hit tab. So you can have the vital signs monitor open and running. You just hit the tab button and it will pick it up and start running that.
Yeah, so anything you enter there will immediately be displayed on the vital signs monitor. So yeah, so there's another question related to the vital signs. So the question now here is so the vital signs are changed by the instructor rather than changing in response to vent changes. So the idea is that the instructor would be changing the vital signs as appropriate during the scenario. So if there are changes made to the vent that would result in different vital signs, then the instructor would be changing those accordingly. So that really means that, of course, there's no automatic link between the changes made on the ventilator don't feed into our system automatically and result in automated changes to the vital signs. But we've tried to make it as easy as possible for the instructor to manipulate these during the scenario as they see fit.
There's another question. Will this simulator also do non-invasive ventilation? Absolutely. You can put any ventilator onto the ASL 5000. You can even put an oscillator or a jet ventilator. It can adapt to anything. If you're going to do non-invasive, you would need a mannequin of some type to put the mask onto the mannequin's face. But other than that, yes, it'll work completely fine. We have a customer asking to show a neonatal patient. Let me finish reading that question. And it says, the question is, can you show a neonatal view? Do the diagnosis options change under the neonate patient type? Yes, so for each patient type, the diagnosis does change. So for here we have healthy, BPD, and IRDS. Also for pediatrics, we have healthy, asthma, ARDS, and cystic fibrosis. So they do change for each patient type. We also have, just to point out, we have a customs button on each of these, and this gives you the ability to customize a little bit further the patient that we gave you. So you can choose the respiratory rate. We give you 3 options for each severity. Depending on the disease state, they will change a little bit. And you can do mild, moderate, severe, resistance, and compliance, and also effort. You also have the ability to make the patient completely apneic here if you so choose. So you can do a simulation of a patient waking up from sedation, coming out of OR, or paralytics.
Yeah, so you have some options here for manipulating your patients, and those options do change based on the patient type. But it's important to understand that you're not limited to these options. This menu is really meant to just offer a very simplistic way for our customers to get up and running with their simulations. But of course, if you want to dial in a very specific breath rate for your spontaneously breathing patient, you could always go to this advanced interactive panel that we've been demonstrating here and craft your patient model more specifically.
Oh, so I have a question back about non-invasive. It says, explain putting on the mask for non-invasive. Where would it go? Brian's going to show a picture of our system with the mannequin in it. This is the Pro package. The Pro package comes with our mannequin. And you can see here that the mannequin is intubated. So I have a red spotlight now. This mannequin is intubated and the ventilator is connected to the ET tube. So the student is doing the most realistic thing with a mannequin that they can. They are intubating the patient and placing them on a ventilator. You can see down here, this box is the ASL 5000, and there is a tube coming from the mannequin directly to the ASL. So the ASL is the lung here. It's just underneath the cart. You can wide directly into this black port right here if you wanted to. So for neonatal and pediatric simulations, we suggest that you just put the ventilator circuit directly into this port, and you could use a mannequin as you can jerry-rig the circuits to make it look like the patient is intubated when really it's connected to the ASL. So the mask would go on the mannequin's face here, and our mannequin's face is built to work well with non-invasive masks. He actually has a very good face for that. We have another question about the mannequin. It says, on your mannequin, will it actually detect leaks with non-invasive? So your non-invasive ventilator, if there's a leak, it should leak. The mannequin does not detect a leak. It would have to rely on the ventilator as we do in real life. Let me finish reading this question. Can you vent the mannequin with chest rise volumes? Yes, you can use any volume that a real patient can use, and you can also use any level of PEEP that is clinically, significant. You can go up to, I think, a 40 of PEEP, but if you would use that. So anything you would do on a ventilator on a real patient, you can do with our system.
Yeah, so the thing to keep in mind here is that the volume capacity is not limited when you are integrating a mannequin, because the lungs really would still be the ASL 5000, which has that 2.7 liter volume capacity. So we're not limited to the space inside of the mannequin like many other simulators. And so there's another part of that question that I wanted to address quickly, and that's asking specifically about the chest rise. So we are detecting all of the flows, pressures, and volumes here with our simulator, and then we are correlating those with the appropriate chest rise for the mannequin. So your chest rise will be realistic to the scenario that you're running. So we have a couple questions here related to our curriculum modules. Our curriculum modules are the scenarios that we've been building here internally for our customers. And so let me go back quickly to the software program. So the first question here is, how do you open a module that you have created and saved before? And so within this instructor dashboard environment, this is where you would be loading and running your curriculum modules, whether those are ones that you've created on your own or ones that we've built. In either case, you would be loading your scenario or patient here with this button on the initial settings under the instructor dashboard. So then that, of course, sort of depends on where you specifically save that. We have default directories, but you also do have the ability to organize your files the way that you want.
For more information about that, we have 3 brand new videos that will help you work your way through the software on ingmarmed.com under the support tab. There are 3 training videos. One is about loading and running and saving in the instructor dashboard. One is about using the quick choice menu, and one is about using the interactive control panel. And the 4th one is about scripting, if you have any questions about that. So those are great resources to look at.
Yeah, those are brand new videos. They were all developed in our latest software version that you're seeing here today. So as Kimber said, go ahead and check those out on our support section on the website. So we are running out of time here. I want to be careful about everyone's time so that we get you out of here at an appropriate time. And so we do have a handful of other questions that are coming, I think, mainly from customers here. And so thank you very much for these questions. These are great. What I can say is that we will be responding to you individually for the questions that we haven't addressed with you. But always feel free to reach out to us here at Ingmar Medical, and sales@ingmarmed.com would be the best place to start if you are interested in learning more about how these products could fit your needs. If you're a current customer and you need some help, support@ingmarmed.com would be the best path. So thanks again, everyone, and we hope to see you next time.